Hello, this is Gerald Overmars. When you would like to learn to recognize as quickly as possible the letters, where they are, which positions they start from, as starting points, as continuation points, or as orientation points, you need this method here in the background. And then you can also recognize that and understand why each word has a meaningful combination of letters. It's not just about positions, I just showed you positions. It's also about balance, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what kind of balance that you have. The whole balancing out of letters and understanding what to do and understanding intuitively what to do. It's all about the balance between three differences. Like you have a balance, like you are in a dance, and you deal with horizontal, vertical, diagonal, these three orientation directions, and in between we see how we have to behave to maintain a balance. So this maintaining a balance needs also certain engagements, what to do at certain points. And this whole balancing out is there as well, not just in the dance, because that's the more complex and movable positions in space that you can imagine. Let's also go to the fixed elements of balance, which are a bit more easy than the balance in a dance, let's say. But the balance also in the fixed elements, like into space, where you have an orientation to space into fixed points without that they are moving. Don't make it too complicated immediately. Also there is a balance, and these balances are actually quite easy words that you can use there. The 1, 2, 3 rule applies there as well. So you have first, at the first level also of all these positions, is the first level of starting points. Very easy concept. When you continue with working with starting elements, you are continuing as we speak. So you are into the second realm of continuation, into the realm in the middle, let's say, where you work out, yes, indeed, what you're doing there. And in the end, you also conclude and make conclusions. Is also, again, the 1, 2, 3 rule. Also upward in the scheme, it's not just about positions, it's also about that balance. So also there, underneath are the starting points where you engage your concepts with, your orientation with. The second level, where you develop the elements. And in the end, it's not just a conclusion, but it's the concluding part. Now that we don't say that, it's at the end phase of where we have the most complexity, and there the balancing out of things, again as the third position, is more important. Let's try to balance out, because we have already too many elements in the end. This is all about that balance. I'm going to talk more about that balance here as well. Now, what's the only thing which is quite which is not so dependent actually, is the main focus. There are three main focuses in the first category of orientations, which is into one point. It's a fixed point, and you consider that as that certain point. So that's the main focus, and we always have that in the background when trying to focus out even the slightly off balance or balancing out elements in points. The second category, it's almost like a sort of mathematics as well, because you have the points and you have the directions in the second category. Also there is what we count upon is this middle frame of two main focuses where we get to know things. So because it's out of balance slightly, and then therefore we can get to know what's different, what's changed, and so on. Last category, what we count upon, is that full frame focus, where we simply observe what's going on and we deal with that reality which is there. That's also that balance. Let's now I'll talk about balance a little bit more later on, but here let's go and see where the positions are, and also how we deal with that in that position. In work, it starts with the W. I had that a couple of times before. So where does our attention go? You see it already in the scheme. There is the W. It's in these vertical directions that moves actually away from yourself toward the other. The second category is always about balancing out also between your position and someone else's position. The W is in between. And what kind of attention do you give there? You breaches your own standard fixed points and you go towards what changes. And compared to the word work, it is of course you give attention to what changes. So it is already an attention to what needs to be done there. So what is actually going on there. So your attention goes towards these changes as well that are into a changeable position where you have to adapt to and so on. So that's the kind of attention also that is balancing out there. If you compare that to what you do towards the other, that is indeed that kind of attention, what is going there. And here a little bit more about that balance. So of course you have the workout already in the second category. How do you do that? What will you do? And in the three categories again, you have this balance where the first category is a little bit like, or it's always 3 points there that you can add letters there. The first category, the first row of letters will always be, okay, let's see what I will do. The second category is like, no, I will do something. I am changing. I will move towards somewhere. And the last category is always that uncertain principle because it's a bit unclear where the things are going. You can still follow up the directions. Diagonal is also less certain than horizontal and vertical because it's in constant change. The angle can change and so on. So it is about uncertainty in a way. While the first kind row of letters is always quite of predetermined. So what you decide what to do with it. The second place is the certainty principle, where you just notice what you need to do, and the last stage is always that unknown factor. You can also deal with that into with time factors as well, and it's very logical. We use them all the time. So if you have the 1, 2, 3 rule into the time factor, you have the past, the present, and the future. In the present, you notice what's there. The future, you don't know; it's not there yet, so you don't know what's going to be there. So you have to look out for it and pay attention to it in a different way as you deal with the past. With the past, you just decide, okay, I know this, so I will use that. That's the predetermined thing. In the present, you say, okay, let's see what we have now. Okay. So that's the most certain thing, it's now. And in the future, it's not that certain thing. So you don't know that anymore. Not at least not predetermined. You have to figure out. That's the way how it is. And the W is in that last category. As you can see, you also have to interpret this balancing out. And just the 1, 2, 3 rule, apply that in different ways. And you understand what is the mentality that follows up the positions. So here, of course, this attention towards what needs to be done for the future and as well is going to look towards the other with an open factor. You don't know yet actually how you need to do that, what you need to do there, or at least not what is going to become of that. That's the third option as well. What you need to do is something else, because that's now. What you need to achieve, that's the future. You don't know. That's part you don't know well. And there is that open factor. The whole system, by the way, has this balance that we, as people who speak and who have an opinion and whatever, learn here also by speech. We're not just expressing something, I know this, on Facebook, that's another thing, but we are means there are other tendencies. Now we learn things and we engage we say already what we know from the past, but then is the engagement, what is there at this moment, and then you determine, okay, what comes towards us. You have to deal with that. You have to determine what the feedback systems, how they are, how they work, and so on. So it's an adaptation. If you don't do that adaptation, it's a kind of autism, let's say, in a way. Here, this open factor is like an instinct that makes you learn also by language. And language is meant not to express like I know. No, you know is the first factor. Let's find out the second factor. Let's see what is already coming back, so that we can make decisions towards what is already developing towards the future. It's all from my viewpoint onwards that I see these things. So the next letter is the letter O. If you look into the system, you see the letter O as a direction as a starting point. So a predetermined starting point as well, while written as O. And it's my engagement, it's a starting point. That starting point, where of course also from the position I want to learn, that's your mentality, that's your decision if you do that or not, but otherwise the rest of the transactions and feedback system won't work so much either. So it is a working system, keep it livable. It's a working system with words. Words are meant to communicate, not to express an opinion. Communicate to get to know things. In O, it's that engagement again. So here I express it in the middle, and you can also express it as a predetermined engagement. But as the letter it is actually with a bit more focus upon the middle. Itself as a letter and as a sound is in the middle. It means I'm going to focus upon what can be changed. It's very small. It's not like or which needs more time. Is very small in time. Let's see what I have to do now. Again, it's focused. The A itself is focused on time management, but in the very short letter I can determine that it's more about in combination with this, with your engagement. It's your engagement in O which determines itself into a very small point. Let's see what I have to do right now, what needs change. E is about change, E is about time management, and the O of the engagement has maybe a plan, but it still looks into the present, how to do so. So here you have that O point there where you want to work that out. The next letter is the letter R from the last category. The last category is about all the things that are playing along in the background, which are continuous, the things that are there all the time with no start and no ending. But in between this zone, you can still determine a certain definition and say, oh, here I can do something with it, or here, this part I can follow. It gives you an access within this frame of continuations, and it tries to find its own rhythm. And it, because of the R is the last letter of that rhythm, it's also the way how to finalize that rhythm so that there can be a continuation. That's what the R position means. So this continuation tries to make an axis with a point with a movement towards my point of from work, and from that part also where I am already focusing upon towards work. So I have this continuation in the background with my own engagement towards that point that I engage again to the continuations, so that he can also continue with a formula so that I can be successful in what I'm doing. Last letter is the letter K from the last category. Here again I talk about these balances. The balance of K is in the third position, and it's in that uncertainty principle again. So where you actually say, I do not know, but even better said, I do not know that beforehand. Well, the for instance, is I have something that I determine beforehand, where I use it as a starting point. The K is the opposite. It actually says I use this starting point, but I do not know how I to fill it in beforehand. It is about conclusions. You need to get to conclusions, but you cannot make these conclusions beforehand. So that's the open factor of the 1, 2, 3 rule. So again, that's how the computers work. Also in artificial intelligence, how they work in that third option. It tries to make a conclusion by experience, but it doesn't know that. Artificial intelligence is not intelligent. It repeats what it already found. If it doesn't know, it will not, at this point, it's not programmed as to say, I do not know, or this is that much uncertain. No, it makes a conclusion because it's programmed to do so. It's programmed to make a conclusion. The third option is to make a conclusion. But we have to realize how much it is based upon that uncertainty principle. And we still have to find out a practical way, and that's work. That's where we need work for. So there's still a lot of work onto artificial intelligence as well, because that's the point that is not worked out. It immediately goes to a conclusion, even if it doesn't know it at all. It's an administrator that makes conclusions anyhow, even if so it makes the most obvious conclusions that are already around. And that's it. It doesn't work that out. Remember that. It doesn't work like that. But work will take it a step further. It will take it a step further to make a realization that the last conclusion, how to do so, is not predestined beforehand. So the results of the work are not predestined, even though the or has an intention. I know beforehand what I need to do, with the O as well, but what the results will be is not clear. And they are there somewhere in the future, and you engage yourself with the R towards the results. And within this continuous work, within this rhythm of engagement, where the W is already a kind of balance and balancing out, it needs to adapt again and again, and its rhythm has to adapt to to where we can receive results, how much we know these things, how much we do not know these things. It's a constant adaptation, and this factor of work in that way has this aspect as well, and that's important to know. Work is not an engagement like a robot, like an automated system that just performs and will do and will make the conclusions all the time. No, there is a continuous work going on of adaptation, depending on the engagement that you have before with the W of the energy which is still there or which is not there or which is going somewhere else. It's a constant adaptation that is embedded in the word with a capital of work. Thanks again for watching. Bye.